Namaste and welcome to a Valentine's Day special episode on the Festival of Bharat. As you all know, we are committed to bringing you content that is dharmic in energy, spirit, and intent. We aim to keep the torch of Sanatan Dharma flying proud and high. Few are probably aware that Valentine's Day, a day that is traditionally associated with a day for celebrating love the world over, has been associated, or in fact appropriated, from a pre-Christian pagan ritual called Lupercalia. Although the origins of this festival are slightly dark and dubious, today Valentine's Day has become the day for celebrating romantic love. To mark this occasion, disregarding its somewhat troubled history, we have a very special guest with us, Aditi Banerjee Malakar. Aditi ji's first novel, The Curse of Gandhari, a successful bestseller, was published by Bloomsbury in September 2019. Her second novel on Shiva and Sati has been slated for publication later in this year in 2022, also by Bloomsbury India. She's a practicing attorney at a Fortune 500 financial services company in the US and has also completed an executive MBA from the Columbia University. She earned a Juris Doctor from Yale Law and received a BA in International Relations, magna cum laude from Tufts University. She's a prolific writer and speaker about Hinduism and the Hindu-American experience. She's a member of the Indic Academy and the Indic Book Club, which sponsored a successful 6-city book tour for The Curse of Gandhari in the September of 2019 across India. She co-edited the book, Invading the Secret, an analysis of Hinduism studies in America in collaboration with Sri Rajiv Malhotra ji, and has also authored several essays in various publications such as the Columbia Documentary History of Religion in America since 1945, and Buddhists, Hindus, and Sikhs in America, A Short History, and so on. Her articles have also been published in Outlook India and many other publications. In her free time, she enjoys wandering in the Himalayas, cooking with the latest kitchen gadgets, hunting for that perfect cup of tea, and reading about history and world literature. So Aditi ji, I take it you're based out of New Jersey, you're in Princeton, and am I right?
That's right.
And could you tell us how is it over there? How are you guys? I mean, my first question is always about COVID and Corona and stuff of that nature, because it's good to know how things are. And I hope everyone in your family is doing well.
Yes, luckily everyone in my immediate family is safe, but I don't think there's anyone who has gone untouched by COVID in the US or in India or anywhere really. So for the past 2 years, we've actually been working from home. So I work in New Jersey. And then like one day in March 2020, we were told we'd have to go home because of this pandemic. We thought we'd be back in a few weeks, and then, you know, it's 2 years. It's 2 years later. It's been very interesting, you know, going through this experience. The other hard part has been my husband is in India, and so we had gotten married at the end of 2019. And then he was going to come here, but then with the lockdown and things like that, and there's just, you know, like the consulate wasn't open, so he wasn't able to come here. And then because of the shutdown, I wasn't able to go there. So that's been kind of a trial of separation. But I think it's also these times that teach us about gratitude. And so, you know, being grateful for what we do have, not taking for granted what we do have. Also taking that time. It's very interesting. I think a lot of people just, the isolation of being at home was just driving a lot of people crazy. And I think that also tells us how important sadhana is, how important yoga is, and this ability to be by oneself and not always be restless and seeking for the external world. So I think that's just highlighted how important our dharma and our practices and traditions are. So that's been interesting. But yes, we're hoping that and work-wise we'll be able to go back, you know, in a hybrid model sometime in the next few months, but we'll see.
That's pretty much how it is. I mean, these stories are so common around the world. You know, people separated, families, you know, parents, children, wife's husband in your case, separated because of this crisis. So I guess I empathize with your situation, but like you rightly said, it is testing time for all of us, and this is where our training or background in our practices come into play, and that's where sadhana helps, like you rightly pointed out. So much strength to you and to your husband, and I do hope that that you will be reunited in the future. So right, I wanted to know that you're a practicing attorney, and you're also a writer of bestseller books. So it's a very challenging, dual role that you play. So I wanted to know, actually, let's start with how you started out on your journey, or a little bit actually further back. What is your background? Where do you come from? What kind of, are you, I can tell from your accent that you're probably raised in America. So could you tell us a little bit about that, and how you, since you are fairly young, how did you manage not turning woke or liberal, as the word is loosely used these days? How did you manage not to turn into that?
Sure. So I was born and brought up in the US, in the suburbs of Chicago in the Midwest. And growing up, in the summer, my mother would take my brother and me to India for basically for most of the summer. So we spent time with our grandparents and in Kolkata, visiting relatives, and just through that experience, we soaked up a lot of Hindu culture and Indian culture. So then of course my father would come too, but because we had the summers free, we spent a lot of time there. So growing up, we spoke, Bangla at home. And then so I'd be surrounded by, when we were in India, we would see sometimes the serials on TV, on the Mahabharata or the Ramayana. So there was a little bit of that in the environment, but I really wanted to know more. So I'd see something in the serial, and like the character of Gandhari, for example, or Draupadi, and I'd want to learn more. But there was very little that was available for someone like me who was English speaking, couldn't read the scripts of the Indian languages. And then when I'd go to the library or I'd go to the bookstores, there was maybe like one shelf for Hinduism, and it was all filled by Western writers on Hinduism, just very derogatory works. So there'd be a book on like Ramayana, let's say, but the introduction would be like, oh, well, he never existed, and Hindus believe in this myth, and kind of ridiculing us. So that was frustrating. At the same time, going through school and things like that, it was, being of Indian descent, there was like some teasing, some bullying, things like that. And so I really fell in love with reading. So I would read a lot of books. I'd go to the library and pick up, whether it was Charles Dickens or the Bronte sisters or whoever it was. And I loved those books, and they were kind of like an escape from the real world. But what I felt is that, this must not be it. So kind of like these books, reading books like Anne of Green Gables or Little Women or Little House on the Prairie, they're very nice, but then it didn't seem satisfying to me, that there must be something more than this. And so with that, and then the time in India visiting temples, and then I started going to the Chinmaya mission on the weekends for like morning meditation. And so there was always a sense that there was something more, something greater, and that led me towards wanting to find spirituality, wanting to find dharma, and then also the frustration of it being very difficult to access in the West as someone growing up in the US. And so this duality kind of really propelled me towards, one, having this thirst for dharma and sadhana and Hinduism, and then two, like recognizing all of the problems that we face today in having exposure to like authentic Hinduism, especially, I won't even say in the Western context, because I think you're seeing it in India now too. So with this development of this kind of system, and then what I found is when I started doing sadhana, when I started doing, japa or puja, even in a very little way at that time, or practicing yoga, the benefits of that were so great. It was so empowering that when you have that, you don't need anything else. You don't need like a construct of being entitled to fundamental rights or things like that, because what you learn is that your responsibility for your own self, which is actually very freeing. And the true freedom is not the freedom to do X, Y, and Z, but it's the freedom from the need of X, Y, and Z. And this kind of mindset switch, which comes from sadhana and like our philosophical traditions, then when you're grounded in that, then all of this other things, which, I think wokeism, liberalism, they come from good, noble impulses, but it's just a misunderstanding of fundamentally how the world works, how human nature works, and the best way of solving for real problems that do exist. So when you look at the dharmic framework, it's an alternative framework that's not based on the same premises necessarily, but can give actually much greater benefits that are long-term, sustainable, and holistic, and that lead us towards moksha or liberation rather than getting more entrenched in samsara.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.